In 1962, a PhD student at MIT pulled off what is now considered the first password theft in the history of computing. His name was Allan Scherr. His motive wasn't sinister. He just wanted more compute time. The shared mainframe gave each user 4 hours per week, and 4 hours wasn't enough. So Scherr submitted a punch card asking the system to print the file that held everyone's passwords. And it did, because in 1962, passwords were stored as plain text in a regular file, and the print job didn't care what was inside. That is where authentication actually starts. The system Scherr exploited was MIT's CTSS, the Compatible Time-Sharing System, one of the first computers in history to let multiple users log in at the same time. The moment you have multiple users, you have to answer a brand new question. Which one is this? Fernando Corbató, who led the project, later called the password kind of a nightmare, but there was no obvious alternative. So we typed our names and tacked on a secret. By the late 70s, that secret had moved off disk in clear text. Robert Morris and Ken Thompson introduced the crypt routine in the 7th edition of Unix in 1979. Instead of storing the password, the system stored a one-way hash. They also added a small random value beside each hash called a salt, so two users picking the same password produced two completely different stored values. That broke an entire class of attacks at once. But the principle alone wasn't enough. Generic hash functions like SHA-1 are designed to be fast, and once GPUs arrived, fast became the enemy. So the field moved to deliberately slow memory-hard functions, bcrypt in 1999, scrypt in 2009, and Argon2, which won the password hashing competition in 2015. Those are the modern defaults. But the real problem with passwords was never storage, it was humans. People reuse them across dozens of sites. Phishing pages capture them in real time. Keyloggers grab them straight off the keyboard. A perfectly hashed password on the server is worthless if the user just handed the plaintext to a fake login page. After 3 decades of breaches, the industry reached one blunt conclusion. A single secret is not enough. The fix has a name: multi-factor authentication. NIST formalized 3 categories: something you know, something you have, and something you are. Combine 2 from different categories, and an attacker has to break 2 independent things at once. The first mainstream something you have was RSA SecurID, a key fob that displayed a fresh 6-digit code every 30 seconds. It worked for decades, until 2011, when attackers breached RSA itself, stole the seeds for the entire fleet, and walked straight into Lockheed Martin a few weeks later. That breach is part of why the industry shifted from shared secrets to public key cryptography. The version most of us use today is TOTP, Time-Based One-Time Password, standardized in RFC 6238 in 2011. Your authenticator app and the server share a seed once, then independently derive the same 6-digit code from the current time. They don't communicate after enrollment. SMS as a second factor is much weaker. It's vulnerable to SIM swap attacks, where someone convinces your carrier to port your number to a phone they control. NIST formally discouraged SMS-based 2FA in 2016. It's still everywhere because it's easy. The strongest answer the industry has so far is FIDO. The FIDO Alliance was founded in 2013. The WebAuthn standard reached W3C recommendation in 2019. Your device generates a unique key pair per site. Only the public key ever leaves the device. To log in, the site sends a random challenge. Your device signs it with the private key, and crucially, the signature is bound to the site's origin. That single property kills phishing. A fake login page can't reuse the signature because the domain doesn't match. In 2022, Apple, Google, and Microsoft committed to Passkeys, the same WebAuthn credentials, synchronized across your devices through iCloud Keychain, Google Password Manager, or Windows Hello. No shared secret, nothing to steal at scale. Biometrics fit in here, but the common framing is wrong. Your fingerprint or your face doesn't replace your password. It unlocks a hardware-backed key, like the one inside Apple's Secure Enclave, introduced with the iPhone 5S in 2013, or Android's Strongbox. The site never sees your face. It receives a signature, produced by a chip that wouldn't release the key unless the biometric matched locally.
But authentication doesn't end at login.
Once you've proven who you are, 3 more questions show up. How does the server remember you on the next request? Through a session stored in a database, or a self-contained token like a JWT? How do you decide what you're allowed to do? Role-based, attribute-based, or relationship-based authorization? And how do you reuse your identity across domains? OAuth 2.0 for delegated access, OpenID Connect for federated login, SAML for enterprise single sign-on, which has actually been around longer than OAuth itself. Where this is all heading: continuous authentication. The system keeps re-verifying you in the background using signals like how you type, how you hold your phone, where you usually log in from. Risk-based adaptive auth. Low-risk requests get waved through, suspicious ones get challenged. The asymmetry is the point: invisible when it can be, aggressive when it has to be. The whole arc, from 1962 to now, is the same idea getting more honest. We started by trusting users completely. We've slowly accepted that users are human, the network is hostile, and the server can be wrong about everything. And somehow, despite all of that, logging in is supposed to feel easier than typing a password. We're still figuring out how to get there. That's it. If you learned something new, hit like and subscribe. See you next time.